Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video. I'm Peg City Hockey, and today is my first video in my brand new series where I take a look at sleepers who I feel are going to be taken later than they should be in the 2020 NHL draft. Now, for my first player that I'm going to be talking about, the first prospect who I feel like is going to be a really good NHL contributor who might not be taken as high as he should be, who he might actually fall to a team like the Winnipeg Jets, ironically, who could really use him. The player I'm talking about is center Connor Zary of the Kamloops Blazers in the WHL. This year, in 57 games, he's got 38 goals for 48 points for 38 goals, 48 assists for 86 points this year in his campaign. Now, overall, Connor Zary is a really good player. He's very skilled in a lot of areas. He's not specifically good at one thing. He's basically the best way to compare him is kind of like a guy like Marchand and Horvat. They're not flashy players at all. They're just good, solid hockey players. And that's a really good thing. We kind of overlook players nowadays in the NHL who aren't flashy, who are very good, solid contributors to a team, who put up star seasons year after year, who only the fan base of the team that player will play for is very familiar with. Bo Horvat is a really good example of that, I feel. Bo Horvat is a really solid, very young, very good NHL player who is not talked about a lot because of his style of play. He's not flashy, but does he score? Yes. Can he pass the puck well? Yes. Does he skate well? Yes. Does he play great two-way game? Yes. Does he check well in the neutral zone? Like, you could just go on and on about how great of a player Bo Horvat is, while other people in the NHL who are fans of their teams won't know as much about him because of him not being flashy and not getting the attention that other players get. But just because you're not flashy in the NHL doesn't mean that you're not a bad player. And Connor Zary is one of those guys who, because he's not a flashy player, and there are some very flashy players in this draft, he's kind of falling out. But overall, Connor Zary is one of the best complete players in the draft. Is he NHL ready? I don't know if he's just NHL ready yet. I feel like he might need 1 year, maybe a year and a half in the AHL just to develop to a more physical game, because the WHL, it is kind of soft. Yes, they hit and stuff like that, but they're not very big players out there in the Western Hockey League. So because of that, I feel like he could use a year to develop nicely in the AHL. But even then, a project case where you have to develop them in the AHL for maybe a season and a half, that's not a bad player to take, 12th overall, 15th overall. That's the type of pick that you don't know usually what you're going to be getting. But overall, I feel like Connor Zary can be a very good, skillful second-line center on a really good contending team. He could be that on any team, actually, but I feel like because he's going to fall to a team more specifically, that is kind of playoff ready like Winnipeg, because if you look where Connor Zary is projected to go, he's projected to fall outside of the top 10 to go anywhere between 11 and 15. That's where I've seen him in the draft rankings, and if he falls to any of the teams in that bracket, he could be a huge asset for them just in a few years for having that center position. To have a skilled center position player who is overall is really good at puck control and possession, who is very versatile, who's got a high hockey IQ, who is really high compete level, and who's got insanely high upside, that's a really good pick to get in that spot right around there between 10 to 15 overall in the first round. And overall, he could help a lot of teams out. If you look at his rankings so far through all the most, respected rankings, the NHL Central Scouting has him ranked 12th among North American skaters. Bob McKenzie from TSN has him ranked 17th. Craig Button from TSN has him ranked 10th. HockeyProspects.com has him ranked at 16th. ISS has him ranked at 15th. McKean's Hockey has him ranked at 9th. Future Considerations has him ranked 13th. Andrew Forbes has him at 13th, Josh Bell has him at 14th, and Larry Fisher from the Hockey Writers has him at 16th. Now, see, overall, he's kind of falling to those mid-tier teams that, maybe get knocked out in the first round of the playoffs, or the other teams that just miss the playoffs. Now, because of that, he's not going to go to a team that's rebuilding, which is the exact situation he needs. To have a guy like Connor Zary to draft him, you need to put him into a successful winning environment to have him develop properly. If you just stick him in the AHL or bring him into the NHL right away and you're a bad team, he's not going to be able to develop properly. Connor Zary is not skilled enough to be able to make his own, plays for himself. He needs a center. He's a playmaking center who's a great two-way game. You need to surround him with good talent for him to be overall a good, successful player in the NHL. Now, just because, though, he is ranked, in those tiers, doesn't mean that, in my opinion, he could be even higher. There could be a team that sees him as a really high, high upside who could be taken in the top 10. I definitely would not be surprised if Connor Zary went in the top 10. But overall, his NHL potential, it's kind of through the roof. You know, when he could be one of the best two-way guys in the game, or he could never have a career at all. That's how it works with prospects, right? You can't look at what they say with a prospect and take it with, you have to take everything with a grain of salt. So when I look at a guy like Connor Zary, I see a guy who could really succeed on a team where he will be drafted at. I think the fact that this year there might not be a playoffs in the NHL is actually might help a guy like Connor Zary, because we don't know exactly how the draft is going to work based on the lottery and who's going to get those first overall picks. So any of these players could fall to teams that are good, which will help them increase their development. If you look at teams like, with Jack Hughes in New Jersey, the reason he didn't have as much of a successful season is because the team was just bad. And if you have a bad team, it's really hard to keep morale. We all know this. This is a common sense stuff. But unfortunately, hockey people that look and rank players, they don't take this stuff into consideration as much as they should, because they're more focused on just the player itself. But the thing with the NHL, which makes it completely different from all the other leagues, is that a player is you can't rank a player just based on how good a player is. In hockey, it's such a team game that, in my opinion, you need to rank the whole team and look at what surrounding, talent is around him in order to make him good. Not every player, like, you could put Connor McDavid is an amazing player, best player in the league, best player in the world in my opinion. But is he being wasted in Edmonton, or had he been wasted in Edmonton because of the lack of talent around him? Absolutely. You can give guys like McDavid fourth line goons who maybe will get 15 goals because they're playing with a guy with a skill level like McDavid, but just because you have one guy that's skillful doesn't mean he's going to have as successful as a career as he would if he had a guy like Leon Draisaitl, like he does now, on his wing. Now that is why Connor Zary going to the Winnipeg Jets, going to a team that is just missing the playoffs or is a wild card team, is a perfect fit for his development, and is actually why him falling out of the top 10 might actually be better for him overall for his career. He can develop nicely in a top 6 and maybe even in that bottom 6 role as he gets some NHL minutes, as he gets some AHL minutes and experience, and it can help him become a better player. It's unlikely that Zary will become an NHL star, or but despite leading the NHL in scoring, but there are times during the season where he still has the tools to succeed in the NHL and be a successful, really good first liner, and because of that, I feel like he could jump into that top 10. But overall, we don't know just exactly how it's going to form yet, because we need to see exactly what's going to happen with the draft. Now, Connor Zary is one of the most skillful players to come out of the WHL in quite a while, and honestly, it's kind of interesting to see a guy this high skilled level overall in hockey with a great, like I've already said, how good he is overall at the game. It's kind of interesting to see him falling out of the top 10, because personally, if I'm a GM, I'm looking at a project case like this where it's an overall standout center who is really good at everything and can develop nicely into a second line, maybe even a first line role with a team, just based off performance for basic hockey play. You don't need to have a flashy goal center to have an effective center. You need a guy who can go out there and just play good defense, who can win you face-offs, who can have good puck control, who can make really good breakout passes in the neutral zone to help get the wingers going, because he has a lot of speed too. So the upside with Connor Zary is just endless. There's a lot of ways that it can go really well for him, and because of that, I feel like he might be one of those players who will fall out of the top 10, but just be as successful as anyone taken in the top 10, only because he's not as flashy as the guys that are in the top 10. And because of that, I feel like Connor Zary is going to be a really, really, really underrated player coming into the draft. Not a lot of people are going to be as high on seeing in the top 5, top 10, but just because he won't be taken there does not mean that he will not have a successful career. I predict him having a really good career, similar to what Bo Horvat is doing with the Vancouver Canucks right now, and I think it'll be a really good star in the NHL as a center, as a really good hockey player. He'll be fun to watch. His skill level is very high. So overall, I think it would be a really smart pick for anybody who is kind of looking for that center role for their team. Connor Zary might be just what you're looking for. Even if you're in the top 10 and you're looking for a center specifically, you might want to just take him and reach and go with this guy because of his potential. He could develop a standout skill just playing in the AHL and the NHL in his rookie year. We don't know. He's so young that the ability to develop a standout skill is great. So when you already are a solid player in every category, but you're not a standout player in one specific skill set, that can be a really, really good sign for you moving forward in your development. So overall, I feel like Connor Zary being taken, maybe run right in the middle of the draft like he's being predicted, is actually going to work better for him because he'll have more opportunity with those winning teams to have better players around him to develop more into that really good playmaking two-way kind of defensive center that he can really be. And just because he's a two-way guy doesn't mean you're not going to get points out of him either. I'm expecting him to be a really solid second-line center, putting up anywhere between 60 to maybe max 70 points a season on a good year. Overall, I see the best NHL comparison to him is a very similar guy like Horvat, and I feel like he's a really, really good player that is going to be a good prospect for whichever team drafts him in the mid-first round. And with all that being said, guys, I'm going to end the video right here. If you enjoyed the video, consider liking and commenting the video down below. And if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. I always appreciate all the support you guys give me on all the videos and everything, so I really appreciate it. So with that being said, peace out, take care, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.